Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to Pop Culture Warrior. I am your host CQ. Oh man, I'm excited. I've been waiting for this one. Guys, our guest tonight has been a powerful voice in the world of voice acting. Powerful force is what I meant to say in the world of voice acting for over 4 decades, bringing to life a multitude of iconic characters from the sinister Psycho Mantis in the legendary Metal Gear Solid video game series to leading roles in classics 80s animated shows like M.A.S.K, where he voiced Trakker. I believe it was Trakker. Doug Stone's talent has spanned generations. His extensive resume includes work on fan favorite animes such as Ninja Scroll and Ghost in the Shell, as well as modern video games like Fire Emblem and Street Fighter. Beyond just lending his voice to characters, he's also worked as a voice director, guiding others in crafting their performances. His contributions to both Western animation and Japanese anime dubs have made him a beloved figure in the industry. With over 50 years in the business, he's voiced characters across film, television, video games, and continually adapting new new formats and genres. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to have him here with us today. Please welcome to the show, everybody. Give it up for Mr. Doug Stone. Yay!
Thanks very much. I can hear the applause in my imagination.
I'm
That's
glad.
good.
I'm glad. It's raucous. It's rock. It's deafening.
Oh,
It's
I'm
deafening.
waiting for it to die down a bit before I speak, but yeah, thank you.
Doug, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today, man. We've spent a little bit of time together. I've talked about going to MGS Con, the original, the first one, and then just recently going to MGS Con 2. And just first of all, everybody there is so incredible. The voice talent, you guys are all amazing people. Watching you interact with your fans is truly something special. I can't imagine what that is for you. And we're gonna talk all about that. But first, we always like to get to know our guests a little bit more at the top of the hour. So first and foremost, what is, if you have, your military connection?
I don't have a strong military connection in that. I was born in Toronto, Canada. I moved to Los Angeles to further my career. I was acting up there and came here in '85. So I was already in my 30s. And when I moved to the States and wasn't a citizen initially, I had to get my landed immigrant status and work my way up to citizenship. By the time I got that, I was in my late 40s and arthritic. So you didn't want me out there with you in the field because I could have got you hurt. My dad, bless his heart, who had thick glasses and flat feet, volunteered for World War II, I think 7 times before they took him because he was determined that he had to get in there and get involved. But they kept saying, dude, you can't even see 2 feet in front of your. So he ended up spending he went from Toronto to Buffalo and served in Buffalo. He actually was in the States, although part of the Canadian Forces. But all my uncles served in World War II. In one function or another. Every man in the family volunteered. They didn't wait. They all volunteered for WW2. But that's my only real connection to the military.
I mean,
Uh,
to say that's a huge connection. I mean, to have, uh, we always consider the greatest generation who fought in the world wars, and we thank them for their service and truly humbled because I'm a guy, and we're not going to talk about me, but I'm a guy who volunteered, after 9/11 and said I want to be there and I want to do it. But I can't imagine volunteering at a time like World War I, World War II, when it was like the world is just on fire and you had to do something. So
yeah, I have my issues with my father, but I was always very proud of him that he would not take no for an answer. He just said, I can't stay home and I won't feel complete if I don't do my part.
that's
I'm sure you know
amazing.
what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, this is obviously a show we talk a lot about pop culture and movies and TV and games and toys and collectibles and all these things. What is something that you geek out about? What is your passion outside of your given industry?
Uh, Music and books, more than I'm a couple of generations late for anime. I mean, to be involved in it because I love acting, but I wasn't raised on anime. I was raised on Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny and Warner Brother cartoons as far as that stuff goes. I'm a real huge music fan. Have been since I was a teenager. It was like, those teenage angst years, and suddenly I had music, and it was like, I have a friend. I have something that speaks to me. That and literature. So I still have here in my home. I have a couple of bookcases filled with books. I belong to a book club and a CD online club where we're constantly exchanging books and music. I still do CDs because I refuse to just keep. I got rid of the vinyl. I got rid of the cassettes. I got this enough. I'm stopping. But my iTunes have about 14,000 songs on them of every genre and generation and language and whatever. So that's my geek stuff, I guess. Is um, whenever I go to my post office box to pick up the mail, if there's a new CD there that, yes, or a new book that I've just exchanged, that gets me excited.
Oh, that's oh man, I love it. I love it. I mean, music is there's something the same way people can be an artist and create this beautiful thing. I think music is very much the same way in a feeling and so yes, absolutely. Real quick, let's talk about MGS Con because that's
Mhm.
obviously where we got to meet and uh, for something like Metal Gear, which I mean, my God, it came out what 98, 99, something like that. Like we're going on like 30 years, and for it to still be such a like rabid fan base, such a passionate fan base that you can have an entire convention dedicated to it, pretty much. What does that mean to you? How does that make you feel?
It's incredible. I mean, for me, it also goes to something I did in 85, 86, M.A.S.K, Mobile Armored Strike Command, this original series. Pre internet, I didn't know about all the fan bases for it or for Metal Gear Solid. I was kind of blissfully unaware of it. I thought, well, it played for a couple of years, it was popular, and now everybody's moved on. When you're participating, you never know what's going to grab the public's imagination and have staying power. So for Metal Gear, when I found out, I think I went online one time and I thought that character Psycho Mantis I did. I wonder if anybody even know villains in get top 10 villains in interactive games in 2022, and there's like number five Psycho Mantis. And so people still know about him. So I start doing more investigating. They go favorite Doug Stone characters. Let's see what are the favorite characters I've done that people. Who's in the top five? Psycho Mantis. Okay. Then I found out about the Metal Gear convention. I wasn't at the very first one, I don't think, but at the last two. And I contacted them and said, you like me to come and play too? Is it just for the other guys who kind of went on? Because they didn't treat Psycho very nicely and keep him on. They, for some reason, didn't see him as a hero. And, which I saw him as, of course, because I'm playing him. So he's my guy.
Of course.
And they went, "Oh, okay, yes, we definitely want you in here." And of course, as you saw, they're wonderful people. They do a great job. It's a fan run, as you may have mentioned on your
Mhm.
show. It's run by the fans, and I guess from going to conventions, they kind of learned what works and doesn't work.
Yep.
So they do a terrific job, and they make the actors feel very welcomed. Um, it's just really nice, and all the fans are polite and nice, and yes, you're meeting people, and it's same with the mask thing. It's very moving sometimes because you'll meet people where maybe some work you did like that, like Psycho and Metal Gear, it came at a time in somebody's life where it was important to them. It in the Mask series, the I played 8 characters, but the lead was a single dad, and I've had guys, including military veterans. There's one who's part of a fan club, and he came up to me in his 30s or 40s at that time with children. And he said, I watch it with my kids, and some of these folks were raised in families with just a single mom, and they'd rush home to watch the cartoon. And Matt Trakker became kind of a father figure to him because he was a great dad in the cartoon with a single child that he was raising, et cetera, et cetera. And you're talking to men. I mean, these are strong guys, and they're almost choking up, saying how much it meant to them to watch your work when they were kids. And it's like you start choking up because you give it your all when you're doing the work. You want to
Yeah.
honor it always. I always wanted Matt to be loving and strong and, honor the character that I was given to do. But you don't think that 30, 40 years later, you're going to get people walking up to you going, that meant so much to me. It was an important part of my life. And you, wow, I did this for my joy, but to know that it brought and continues to bring joy to so many other people, what a blessing. Just wonderful.
Oh, that's oh man. I can't. I mean, I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom. If somebody came up to me, I saw your show, Pop Culture Warrior, I'd fall down and just burst into tears. So I can only imagine what that's like for you to have so many characters so beloved by such a rabid fan base. One of the things I want to touch on too before we dive into your career is the Kitty Bungalow Charm School, which is a nonprofit no kill shelter slash rescue in Los Angeles. I
Right.
know you're involved with them. Can you tell us a little bit about the organization and just how and why you got involved?
Well, I'll start with the second part of it. I got involved because I used to direct and cast, and I had a loop group, and I did production. I was a 7 days a week guy. Once I got in this business, and it worked, and they accepted me and said, "Yeah, come on in. We like you and what you do. Yeah, let me go." And I'm very work oriented. I'm very much about that. So anyway, as I started to get older, and as you may be able to tell, and slow down a little bit and say, I got to kind of take it easy now. Well, suddenly I've got time on my hands. I'm interested in animals. I like dogs and cats, but I do have pretty severe arthritis, so I can't really deal with dogs, like taking them for walks at a shelter or whatever. A big dog starts to run, I'm going to face plant on the cement. So I looked, since I had cats, I looked for a no kill cat shelter. I found Kitty Bungalow, which was just in a backyard at the time. It was just somebody starting it in their backyard. That was a little over 12 years ago. And I got more and more involved with them as a volunteer. And what it is it's a no kill shelter. We want to reduce the population of cats on the streets in a humane way, not by euthanizing a healthy animal, never. Instead, by spaying and neutering cats. So we'll go out and trap ferals on the street. The ones that are young or are kittens, they can usually be socialized for adoption. The ones that can't, if we trap them, we still get them a health check and we get them spayed and neutered and then returned to the colony where they were taken from. And we have people in place. We're working with colony feeders. There's a lot of people, bless their heart. Uh, I've even seen homeless people with shopping carts filled with food that they've made for the kitties, just to help the cats in the street because they know what it's like to be hungry. Bless them. So we'll work with all those people to make sure the colony cats get fed, but no more having babies, no more males fighting each other. So we want to reduce the population humanely. We also do adoptions, and we have a working cat program. For the cats that are kind of in between, they're kind of okay. They won't rip your face off, but they could never be a house cat.
They still got the Joe Pesci attitude, you know. They ain't gonna deal with you. F you. You know what I mean? But you want to feed me? I'll take it.
So for those cats, we find people who say maybe have a mattress factory or they have a farm or whatever else, and they have rats and mice, and we say don't put out pesticides that'll hurt other critters as well. Take one of our working cats, feed them, take care of them, have them on your site. We get them first. They're put in something that's like a not a container, but
Like a
a little place
crate.
to stay until they get accustomed to the smells and the sounds and everything of where they are. Then they're released on that property and they stay, and they just become the mousers, for your factory or for wherever else. And you're just responsible for feeding them, taking care of them, making sure they're medically okay and everything else, and they take care of everything else for you. So it's very cheap labor and no pesticides and poisons involved. So we do all these different things. So there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cats. I think we're up to 800 now or something so far this year that we will do all these different things for, whether it be adopting, just getting them fixed and spayed, putting back into their colony, or getting them working cat, getting them a good job, so that they're
Yeah.
contributing to their community.
I love that. I love that. Get the cats off the streets. Get them jobs.
Yeah,
I love that. That's awesome.
jobs. We've got
That's
enough
so cool.
unemployment in this country. Let's get those cats working.
I love it. First, how can listeners support? How can they get involved? can they go to learn more about
Well,
the
if they're
program?
local to LA, they can certainly volunteer with us, and don't get the macho attitude that it's only girls, ladies volunteering. We've got guys volunteering as well, and some of them are 3 times my size. Uh, Anybody can be an animal lover, and whatever kind of animal. I don't care if you save squirrels, whatever it is. Bless you. That's wonderful that you have the compassion and humanity to do that, which is what I think is a sign of real manhood. Is not just that you're strong, but that you use that strength for protection of
Mm.
critters, people that are in need or smaller than you or need your help. So volunteering certainly, if they have any money to spare, if you go to online and just put in Kitty Bungalow or the Kitty Bungalow Charm School for Wayward Cats on your Google, our site will come up and you'll see all the different ways that people can help by volunteering, by making donations. What I do every year, we also have fundraisers every year. I do one every year being in the voiceover industry. I was doing a comedy show every year during the worst years of COVID. For our anniversary, we were doing an online comedy show because I used to do stage comedy. But what I've been doing every year, we're not doing that now because COVID's kind of dying down a bit. But every year I do a voiceover one with all my good friends in voiceover who I think you were mentioning at the top of the show donate um, autographed pictures, prints. They'll do voice messages. I've got posters and I've got Funko Pops, autographed Funko Pops from really well known people, from anime, from interactive games, from everything you can imagine. And the voiceover stuff is fun too, that you can bid on for some of them. Um, I've had people who've bid on either from Matt Trakker, Psycho Mantis, or other characters, where I'll do an outgoing voiceover message for them. So you've reached so and so and so and so, but it's me in that voice. Hi, this is Matt Trakker, and you've reached so and so. Mask on, leave your whatever whatever they like, or a birthday message. If you've got a friend or a loved one who's a big fan of a particular anime or show, and you think they'd get a kick out of getting a birthday message from somebody, one of the characters from that show in that voice, you can do that. You get to write it. We just want it to be PG, for
Of
the
course, of course.
for all the actors. But if you want us to create it, we're happy to do it, a 15, 20, 25-second message, or you can write one. And again, as long as it's not objectionable, happy to do that too. So there's all kinds of stuff. And that'll be up. This year's will be up on September 28th on Galabid. It'll run from September 28th to October 12th.
Yeah, and
We're just getting it put together right now.
yeah, I'm taking a look at last year's, and it's incredible the amount of
Yeah,
stuff that you have on there,
hundreds of hundreds.
headshots,
Yeah,
like you said, Funko Pops. I mean, some things like I'm a huge fan of the Telltale Walking Dead series. So Lee Everett signed by the voice,
right.
Coco hat. I mean, like there's just
Mhm.
some really really cool things. I'm excited to
Yeah,
see what you guys do with it this year. Please, when it goes out, send us the link because I would love to share it out there. Personally, I'm gonna bid on some things because there's some things that I want. As you can see, I have a huge nerd collection
yeah.
behind me, and I would love to add some of these really cool items, and we'll share it with Neil Ross, the voice of Green Goblin from the Spider-Man animated series. Come on, that's awesome. Oh man, there's some really cool stuff on here. So we'll definitely share it with the audience and let them know where to get
Great.
it.
Excuse me.
Let's see what else. So let's start at the beginning for a second. You are originally from Canada. You mentioned that. How did you first kind of fall into voice acting? Was it a moment where you go, "Oh, I like this. I want to do this," or is it like a lot of stories where you kind of fall backwards into it?
Combination, but more the second, more falling into it. I was acting even as a kid doing amateur theater. Like you have to picture Canada in the early 80s and 70s. Maybe 5 people made a living in show business. It was all just theater actors could make a living in show business. And they weren't doing, in those days, they didn't have celebrity commercials. So they weren't even doing that. So I didn't even dream of having a career in the business, but just after work, going and doing a play was great. I've been working since I was 16. I left school at 16 and supporting myself, and I've done a lot of different stuff. I've worked in factories and driven cabs and made furniture in a small business that my buddy and I had, who was an American living up in Canada. And at one point, I'm doing all this, and I get into a gig where I'm working in the computer industry, and they put up a sign saying we need somebody to do something called scratch tracks, which are temporary tracks that aren't going to be used on air. Now, bear in mind, my dad was a radio announcer in Toronto. He was a DJ on a popular rock and roll station. My younger brother ended up being a newscaster. So it's not foreign to me, the idea of this, but I have no microphone experience to speak of, but I do have acting experience. Anyway, they put up this notice. We need somebody to do scratch tracks. I think, well, it would be a break from being at my desk. So I auditioned for it. I get the gig, and something I'm doing Jello commercials and whatever else pre, if I can say Bill Cosby. He was going to do the permanent one, but they get somebody else to come in because the stars don't have much time. We do it. They time it out. They change it. They tweak it. And they go, that's got it. That's the perfect 30 seconds. Thanks, Doug. Erase him. Get Bill Cosby in, and he'll do it, or whomever.
Mhm.
So I'm doing that, and then the guy in charge, I'm doing so many, says, I'm going to get you some money for this because you're doing so much of it. Money for talking in a microphone? Wait a minute. Doug's beginning to get an idea here. Here I am doing my theater work all the time, trying to break into some on camera work at that point, and I'm getting paid to do some voiceover. So I make a demo tape, I send it out. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I ended up getting voiceover work, doing commercials initially. So at that point, once I start to make money doing that, I'm doing theater and I get my equity card. So suddenly I'm doing professional theater. I start to get some on camera work, straight to video films and whatever, and I'm getting some lead roles. Quit the day job. I don't care if I've lived poor before. I've been real poor when I was a young guy. So I don't care. As long as I can just pay the rent and eat, if I can do something I'm passionate about, oh yeah, man, that's worth more than money to have a satisfying day every day. Yeah, I'll do it. And I no stranger to hard work, so I will get my demo out to everybody in the city and everything, and I'll knock on doors. So that's what I did, and eventually I got. It was just the beginning of animation in Canada. I got a couple of little animation things here and there, very, not great animation stuff. The industry was just starting. And then coincidentally, I had done the lead in an on-camera film playing a villain, uh, tough little guy with a gun, and I ended up getting a really good agent in Canada. And coincidentally, they were I think one of two Canadian agents who were casting for a cartoon called M.A.S.K, which was a Canadian, French, U.S. production. I got the lead and two other characters. They said, we're recording in LA. Down to LA I go. I ended up with 8 characters. I'm about to go back home, and I asked the people in the studio and the producers of the show, do you think I'm like good enough to stay in LA and work? Because that would be kind of cool. And they said, yeah, we do. I get an LA agent. I say, fine. I'm coming down to the US of A. I'm going to be a voiceover actor in the US of A. That's a pretty big deal for a Canadian boy.
I
That
mean,
game, and it worked out. I struggled a lot in the early years, to get known and seen and whatever, but it worked out.
and that role as Matt Tracker in Mask, I mean, to come out of the gate and
Mhm.
really have that, I mean, that's a defining moment in a
Yeah,
person's life, let alone a career in this kind of industry.
yeah.
Um, when you land, like, do you realize ahead of time? We say, hey, we're going to have you do this thing. Do you realize, like, oh, this is a game changer? Do you realize, like, this is the thing that can change everything? Or was it like, well, I'm going to try it out and see what happens?
More the latter. I mean, I felt it could help me
Hmm.
career wise, but I thought it would help me back in Canada. I thought, well, when I get back to Canada, because I'm not good enough to stay in the US and work all these giants down here at voiceover. But when I get back to Canada, this should be a pretty big deal that I did a cartoon series down in the LA, 65 episodes. Yeah. I go back up to Canada for a couple of months, and like there's nothing much going on. And I keep in touch with the U.S. folks I'd met, and again they're saying, you can probably get an agent. You can. And I went, okay. So the game changing part of it was I thought it's going to be an intro to a career maybe in the States. Maybe, maybe it'll help me get rolling. But it ended up being much more significant than I ever imagined it would be. But that's the way it all, you do some work in this industry, and I think it must be the same in others. You do certain things, like if you make a house, build houses for a living, you build a house and you go, this is the one. Everybody's going to come in, and nobody comes and looks at it. They look at the other house that you built down there and they go, that's the one. And suddenly you get all this work based on, so you never know. So I had no suspicion. You never know ahead of time or even while you're working what's going to hit and what's not going to hit. So the fact that M.A.S.K had legs is a huge shock, but I'm so grateful to it because it got me here. It got me to LA. It enabled me to make new connections and new friends, which I could then use to build a career on. So it's very significant for me. I'm still in touch. Sorry, let me turn off my phone there, sending me messages. I'm still in touch with, we've lost Brendan McCain, who, lovely man who was in the series, but I'm still in touch with most of the other cast members. So we also, became friends, so significant in that way as well.
I would imagine so. We did have a question from the chats, and it says, um, "How can listeners, like somebody who's listening to this right now, how can they kind of dip a toe, try to get into this kind of line of work, whether it be commercials or scratch tracks, like you're saying, or voiceover work?"
It's very difficult. I get asked it all the time because it's very romantic sounding. And I'm not going to lie, I love being in front of a microphone. But the rest of the time is show business. You're the product, and you're the company that sells the product at the same time. So it can be difficult if you're shy and whatever. You got to kind of put the mask on of acting that you're confident and get out there. It's not easy. And nowadays it's so much different than when I started a long time ago, and it's a whole different playing field. So I can't speak to real specifics of how to get started in it, except to say a couple of general things that I'll say to people. It's acting. It's not making funny voices. Certainly, you have to be able to alter your voices. Oh, you could do accents and different things as well. Throw your voice around and sound like a lot of different people. You can sound like Danny DeVito or whoever else you imitate. That's going to help. But it's acting.
Nope.
So I really recommend people go out, do some amateur theater. Go do some theater at night. It's a lot of fun. You'll meet some fun people, some really creative people, and build up your acting chops. At the same time, you want to take classes. And you want to take classes. My recommendation is you want to take classes not from people who were in the industry 30 years ago, 40 years ago. That's why even I'm still in it. And I don't want to speak to too much that I don't know about. People who were active 30, 40 years ago can teach you about acting, but they don't know how to get going in the business in the modern day. So I recommend two people to check out. There's probably long waiting lists for their classes. I'm sure there's many other people, but Steve Bloom, who I think the last time I checked was in the Guinness Book of Records for the guy who's done the most voiceovers in games, and Bob Bergen, the voice of what is it? Sylvester Daffy Duck. Which one does he do? Bugs Bunny. I forgot which one he does now.
I'd have to double check.
He's one of those Warner Brother guys,
Right.
and I forgot which one he's doing. He took over for Mel Blanc, but he really knows the business too. He's also serves in the union. He does work for SAG as well. So they both know the business side of it, as well as how to use your vocal skills if that's what you have, and you're able to change your voice and do different things. They can help you hone that down to what you do well, and also talk to you about the business side of this. You need demo tapes, or I guess maybe it's just online demos now, that you've got to get out to agents and to companies. You've got to learn how to dub. Dubbing for anime is not easy for everybody. It's very disciplined. It's almost mathematical in a sense because there's existing animation that you're timing your performance to. So if they take a pause and then go on, you as the actor have to justify that pause. Why did they take it? So if the line is, I'm going to go to Chicago and I'm going to get some hot dogs there, but they go, I'm going to go to Chicago and get some hot dogs there. You can't make it sound stilted. I'm going to go to Chicago and get some hot dogs there. So you have to find a way to tie it in together. Those pauses sound natural. So there's a lot of different things to learn. Mic technique, how to use the microphone properly. There's a lot to it.
Oh yeah,
And then
absolutely.
and the fact that everybody's fallen in love. When I got started, at least there was a lot of competition, but not like now.
Right.
Because of the advent of anime and interactive games, the fan base goes, that looks like fun, which I get, of course. I was listening to Mel Blanc going, that's amazing. That sounds like fun. But there's so many people trying to get in that it's very difficult. You don't want to just quit your day job and jump in cold. You got to work your way up and see how you do at every level, and to find out, do you have what it takes to make it at the professional level?
Oh, that's so true. I love so many of the things you said too. I'm sure improv classes probably helps a lot in the moment, the character creation, all these things.
I
Um,
studied at Second City and I studied theater sports. Thank you for mentioning improv. I made my living doing improv and sketch work for a while on stage back in Canada, and did improv down in LA too. Improv is very important because it's not just anime. There's lots of things. Yesterday I was just looping on a film. Looping is providing voices for TV shows and films. I had a group that did all the Hercules and Xena shows, over 220 shows, that we did all of those. You have to be able to not only do voice work, but you have to be able to improvise. When I'm doing, I did Chicago Hope, ER, lots of police shows, medical shows. You have to have the research and you have to have the improv ability to do all that kind of work as well, because there's a lot of things to make your living at doing voiceover. Anime work is one of the lowest paying. Although everybody loves it, it's one of the lowest paying SAG contracts. So you have to do other things as well if you intend to make a living at it, at
yeah, and
voiceover.
I'm sure that's very good information for a lot of people out there because they go, oh, like there's new animes popping up out of the woodwork every 5 minutes. And there's got to be lots of jobs, but if that's the, I don't want to say low hanging fruit. I mean no insult. I just mean that they're not paying what they should be paying the fine actors that are doing the work. And I love that you said, it's the business, it's show business. One of my favorite quotes, I had an actor on here and he was talking, he goes, you don't get paid for the work you get. You get paid for all the auditions you didn't get. Like when you get booked on a gig, that money you're getting is for all the failed auditions. It's all the tireless work to get there. And I
And
love that.
you better be okay with rejection and not take it. I don't. It rolls off my shoulders, thank goodness, and
Yeah.
always has from the time I was doing stage work. But you can't internalize all that. But yeah, you're auditioning. I'm kind of at a point. I don't work as much now, but I'm kind of at a point where I don't have to audition as much. People just, I'll
They
just
know
get
your
hired and
work.
know
Yeah.
me. But certainly those early years, everything's going to be auditions because nobody knows you. And yeah, you're going to be, maybe 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 50. I don't know, 1 in 20. That would be good. 1 in 20, if you were
It
to
will
get
be.
that many. So you're just sitting there knocking it out at home or at the studio that you've driven to, hoping to get hired. As you say, yeah, the payoff is when you get paid for the job, but all those hours and all that mileage,
Yep.
that was to get you there.
That's exactly right. Let's talk about one of your most iconic roles, Psycho Mantis, which to this day, I mean, I was a kid when I played it, but it still haunts me. Like that's a character that's a villain that stays with you well after the fact. What was it like? When you're first you booked the role, okay, you're looking at the lines, you're looking at the character description. Like, did you see artwork for him ahead of time? Like how do they
Yeah.
get you ready for the role?
I don't remember everything about it because it was a while back, but uh, I had the beginnings of the voice were what got me the role. So I did see a picture of him and some description. And to my mind, when I looked at it, I thought this is very different than what I've seen before, and very different than the standard villains twisting their mustaches or whatever. This is guy's really out there. So I thought, let me just for the heck of it, I want to put something down, and this is good for generally for auditioning. If they just to go off for a sec, if they say we'll accept 2 or 3 takes for your audition,
Mm.
go ahead and give them a standard one that you think would work, and then go off the rails for your second or third. Go way out there because they may go, oh wow, nobody did anything like that's really cool. That's what happened with Psycho is that I just went off the rails. I gave him a Germanic Russian combination accent, the heavy voice, and of course they did filter it. I just went for it. I just said I'm going to go for something that's really crazy. That's what I auditioned, and they went, yeah, that's off the rails. We like it. That works for this crazy character. And of course, once I went in, we had to, you know, change this, tweak that, do this, do that. The director is there. I've directed as well. The director is there to give you that guidance. You don't always get the full script
Mm.
for things that you do. For anime, you certainly generally don't see the full script, just your lines. But for original stuff or for games, sometimes you get the whole script. For him, I don't think I did. I think I just got the scenes he was in. So I had a general idea, and then the director gives you, more pointed direction on where to go with him. And the one thing I do remember about the sessions that I liked, it was exhausting, but I liked that I was told go further, go for it, crazier, nuttier, eat more evil. It's like, yeah, okay, I like that. I don't mind pulling back. I mean, sometimes, like if you're doing dubbing for live action movies, you have to keep it very real and very down and very human because you're not selling a cartoon character. You're trying to be real. But when you get the chance to, everybody likes to be a ham. When you get a chance to really go big with somebody or really intense, uh, I'll eat that up. So Psycho was fun, exhausting, but fun.
I was gonna say, when you were, do you remember like, because I mean, it's a muffled character and whatnot. Was that all post work, or did like they give you something to kind of muffle your voice as you were doing it?
As I recall, it was all post. I have done ones where I've put a coffee cup, like a styrofoam coffee cup, over my face. I've done TV shows where I actually had a walkie-talkie. I used to own a walkie-talkie to bring for police procedure shows or whatever. And we'd use those. And sometimes, as I say, you do that. I've done voices in a empty garbage can to help give some of the sound
Nice.
of echo and tin. But in Psycho's case, as I recall, I was straight to Mike, and I think they filtered it later,
Right.
as best I can recall.
What is it? I'm just from your perspective. Obviously, having voiced the character, uh, talked about it, I'm sure ad nauseum at this point. But what is it about that character that you think has struck such a chord with gamers, with people, with that? This isn't a character that was in the sequel and then the sequel and the spin-off sequel and where we've seen other characters. He was there, and it's just he's this shadow still lingers over us of Psycho Mantis. What is it about that character you think that resonated?
To me, there's a couple of things. One is, of course, out of my control, but was amazing, was the fact that put your controller on the floor.
Right.
You like Transylvania, don't you? That whole thing was so different. I mean, when they were explaining to me, I'm going, they can really do that? Oh, it's their money. I don't think you can do that. And then it turns out you actually could. Wow. So I think that blew people's minds. When people do come up to me at conventions, etc., that's one thing they'll mention. I was 8 years old and I put my controller down here. Wow. So it was very groundbreaking in that way. I like to flatter myself about the performance aspect that I tried to make him not a one dimensional bad guy. I tried to, when I read his description and the lines, I thought, this guy's wounded. This guy's got angst. He's angry for reasons. I don't know all of his, they didn't tell me all of his past. All I could tell was from the lines I was reading, I thought this man has got issues that go beyond him being angry at the people he's interacting with. They go way back, the stuff that's in him. So I want to play that. I want his vulnerability to show as well. Because again, when you're playing any character, you have to find some reason to be sympathetic to them. You're inhabiting them. and in their minds, they're the heroes. This is their story. It doesn't matter if I do an anime and I'm the butler who comes in with tea, then I have to think to myself, well, it's an anime about a butler. They're only showing me in the one scene, but I'm a very important character because I want to embody him fully. I want to believe in him, and here is your tea, sir. Like I want him to have a backstory and a life of his own, so it's more believable and has more meat when you're listening to it as a fan. So with Psycho, it was all there to be gotten, to inhabit him that way. So I tried to do that, excuse me, in the performance, and
I was,
I hope that's part of it.
yeah, and I'm like, you said like I like to think this guy had a bad. The way he dressed, he's obviously been through some sort of trauma. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
very bondage heavy, very it's awakened a lot of thing in a lot of people. I'm sure,
yeah,
but
yeah. He got locked in the S&M dungeon and he couldn't get out or something. I don't
yeah,
know.
there's
Maybe he was
some trauma. There's some
eat or something. I forget, but yeah, who
there's some
knows?
deep trauma in there.
Yeah.
Um, uh, 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 you have voiced. I mean, I took a look at your list, man, and it is
Mm.
extensive and exhaustive. You've done so much over your career. Anime characters from Ninja Scroll, Ghost in the Shell. That's a huge. That's one of the ones a lot of people harken back to. In your opinion, how does working on anime specifically, and dubs and non-dubs, but how does that versus other roles? Because I'm assuming there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't get to see. That's different.
Sure. Sure. And I should mention too that the IMDb has, and if you look in at the bottom at crew and stuff, they've got a bunch of my dubbing credit. I don't know why it's there. Like it's voiceover credits. So and the IMDb doesn't list everything that you do because it only knows what you're credited for.
Right.
I've done over 1,000 television shows and films that I've supplied voices for, which the IMDb only knows a little bit about. So and radio commercials and stuff, they don't credit you, so it doesn't know about all that. Yeah, and you're quite right. All of them are slightly different in the technical aspects, and also what you as a performer have to bring to them, how you approach them. Obviously, a radio commercial is very different than an anime. A radio commercial, I get my script and it says 30 seconds. I have to, so I read it down and it comes out at 32. And I'm on line, say, recording, and they say, Doug, got to cut 2 seconds. You have to have an internal clock. So you look at the script again and go, no, I can speed it up there. I can cheat the smaller breath there. And then without looking at a watch, just from here,
Just
bring
bring
it
it
in
down.
again and say, how did it do? And they said 29 and a half. Got it. Okay. You need an internal clock. So that's a different skill set. For dubbing for anime, again, same as I do a lot of Netflix live action stuff. It's following the lip movements and the pauses and whatnot. Um, and you're generally doing it alone. You in front of the mic, engineer and director in the booth. If you're doing animation like Mask or other shows, what's really fun about it, and same with looping for TV shows and films, you're in a group situation with a lot of other actors. I had a lot of fun yesterday because I don't know if you know people like Wendy Lee, who's a very well-known voiceover actress and director, and she happened to be on the looping job with me yesterday. I've known her since the '80s, so you get to see people and have fun. And if it's original animation, you're playing off each other, and that's a lot of fun. So it's like a play. You rehearse it, and you go through the whole half hour, which usually it's like 22 minutes because commercial breaks. But you go through the whole script. The director gives you notes. They may stop you while you're working with some notes, but then the real notes come after you've done a full run through, and they'll give you notes on what they want you to emphasize, change your character a bit here, do this, do that. Then into the recording session. Take your little break and record. And you're usually with people who are very creative and fun. So there is a certain amount of joking, not while you're recording, but there's fun beforehand and after, just joking around with everybody. So that's kind of my favorite thing because it is fun to interact with everybody else. But they're all slightly differing skills coming from the same place, voiceover and acting, but very different in the technical aspects that you have to master to do them. And again, if you want to make a living, you want to master as many of them as you can. And
Jack of all trades. Yeah.
yeah, and in my case, I branched into adapting scripts, anime scripts from foreign languages into anime or live action. Like I had a client, Golden Harvest Pictures. I was dubbing the first early Jackie Chan pictures when they were first coming to the U.S. in the early '90s.
Yeah.
Before he did films here, we were dubbing those into English. So you're looking at those mouth movements, going, "Man, what could he possibly be saying in English that's going to fit that?" Because a lot of Mandarin and Cantonese, the mouth, the lips don't touch. So you've got to just go with that's going to have to be an MB or a V because it's as close as I'm going to get to a full closure. So again, if you can script write, if you can direct, if whatever you get involved in, show
Man,
business.
people don't realize there's a lot. I mean, that also means there's a lot of opportunities out there because there's a lot of different jobs.
Yeah,
But learning
yeah,
about them, that's phew. You and we're running short on time, so I want to make sure we get a couple more of these in.
yeah.
You've also voiced characters in major video games like Street Fighter and Fire Emblem. Because you've been involved for such a long time, I'm curious from your perspective, how has video game voice acting evolved since you first started, right? Since going back to those early games to more recently.
Well, the first games. Sorry, my ride's coming. You can hear the siren in the background. They caught me. It was bound to happen eventually. Pardon the siren. Some of the first video games I did were so basic. I was the announcer going, "Hey kids, move the controller to the left and press that button and make Hercules make a muscle. Good job." So it was that primal. I have stuff in the other room there where they were kind enough to give them, where they were discs that you put in your computer, to play the game. So I go back to those early days. Um, but I guess the changes that I've seen would be that um, there are subtler roles now in some games, like you mentioned, Fire Emblem. Um, the writing in that and the backstories, I feel the characters have evolved to having more backstory, more angst, more character development, which I welcome. Whereas some of the early games, it was really just sword and sorcery, or you know, Doug's character is now fighting the dragon. Take that, evil dragon! I've got him, boys. Those were 90% of my lines were just let's get them, charge, etc., etc. It was all very action oriented, which is cool and fun to play, but not as challenging for me as an actor. I like the challenge. Um, I'd say some of the more modern games, it's more fun for me when I get stuff where I have a character who has disagreements with his daughter, and the king doesn't like him anymore, and the so and so, and he doesn't know which side to be on, and also he lost his wife in the war. And I've got all this stuff going on. So when I deliver my lines, I've got to impart all of that history in what I'm saying. And that's a lot more challenging and a lot more fun for me as an actor. Hopefully, audiences appreciate it as well. That in some of the games, there's more subtlety to the characters, more
I
depth.
I mean I'm a pretty hardcore gamer myself, and I can attest that, like, man, was it the last 10, 15 years, like, you're getting more invested, more and more invested in these characters because you're like, oh my god, he's got a life, he pays bills, he's got
Yeah,
alimony, like, he's got a
I
life.
directed some of the early Dynasty Warriors stuff, and it was great and a lot of fun, and a lot of history involved in it. But it was like 90% of it fighting.
Right.
I've seen the changes as time goes on.
It's got to be a lot of grunting and moaning and that's
I don't do as many games anymore because I don't have the capacity anymore. I'm
Mm.
burnt out with all that fight stuff. I can't do a full day of screaming and yelling and slaying dragons anymore. I leave that to the young actors.
Oh man, I see these guys, like the Dragon Ball, they're just for like half an hour. You're like, man, how do you do that? That
Well,
seems
that's another
exhausting.
skill. Another skill you have to learn is how to yell all day long and not burn out. So it also helps. It's another thing to add. I did take. I'm not a singer at all. I can't sing on key, but I took singing lessons. to try to learn how to use my diaphragm more and how to open my throat and relax it when I'm yelling and being very loud. So there are things you can learn to help yourself.
There you go. Tips from the master. I'm curious, with such a long career that you've had, I mean, playing such a range and diverse characters across many mediums, is there any characters or what are the characters that kind of have left a lasting impression, right, on you personally, like that you still think about, or you feel like that character's maybe still there, it still rattles around there once in a while?
Not too many of them rattle around. I've got enough voices in my head that I brought to the game myself. I don't even need this industry.
Right.
Believe me. Doggy's just sitting here talking to himself all day long, or to the cats, who surprisingly haven't come in yet. Usually, when I'm doing an interview like this or a long audition, they'll come in thinking, "Oh, Dad's talking to us. Better get up on his lap," and their tail will go by while I'm doing the interview. Um, Certainly Psycho. I think it's the ones that generally it's ones that mean a lot to fans end up sticking with me, like Matt Trakker and the gang from M.A.S.K, like Psycho Mantis. And I'm going to get the title wrong. If it was to Rura 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 or Kill la Kill, there was a guy I played who also had a gas mask, and I can't remember which one he was in, but he was wacko doodle, man. I mean, he stole a body, he stole the head from a body or whatever. It was one of those two shows, I think, and I can't remember his name, but I think about him once in a while because he was fun. I like the wackos, I like the grandfather loving types, um, and I like the wackos. There's one that you may not have heard of. I did an original animation series called Thunder in the House of Magic. It was a film, and I played an old Bostonian magician who had a great castle filled with his inventions. He was the most loving, sweet character I've ever played in my life. He was a retired, wealthy magician with this magical house where all his creations that he made, of course, could speak. It's a cartoon. And he adopts a cast off cat. This is after I started at Kitty Bungalow. This is about 12 years ago that I did this. So it spoke to my heart. And I pick him up, and I don't know what I'm going to call him, the Thunder Craig. I'll call you Thunder, and on it goes. But he would, on his spare time, go to hospitals to entertain children with magic shows. He's the sweetest guy in the world. So he's kind of with me. I just loved that guy so much. He was just so kind. So you stand in front of the mic, and I like to picture the audience in front of me. For those kind of things, I picture children, like I'm telling a story to children and I'm watching their reaction. So I have to really reach in my heart to speak to them because I want them to react from their hearts. So with him, I really felt like this very loving grandfather character who was speaking to little children. In fact, I got to tell you, I haven't done it yet, but I am thinking of with my surrogate daughter Ginny. I may start Uncle Doug's story time on YouTube before the end of the year. Since I've got time because I'm not working as much, I may start doing a story time thing just for free, just to put out there. Mainly, I wanted to go to where there's single moms and children who've had to flee maybe abuse, and they're in a shelter or whatever, or children who are home alone or don't have a dad figure or a grandfather figure. Just to read them stories and do a little comedy and have some puppets and whatever else, and just put that out there for fun, just
Please do.
to kind of try to reach to the children and say, this is for you. This is from the heart. This isn't for money. This is just for you, your Uncle Doug or your Grandpa Doug, telling you stories.
No,
So
it's beautiful.
I did that kind of stuff really gets me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Please do. If there's whatever, if we can help you make that happen, I'd love to help you make it happen because that's wonderful, and I think more people need to do things like that. One last question before we let you go. We'll speed round question. What, if you can, off the top of your head, what has been the most challenging role that you've taken on, whether it be from like a technical standpoint or maybe an emotional standpoint, but just what was the most difficult role you've had to do?
That's a tough one because a lot of them are, I mean, some are, it's all about, oh my God, I couldn't talk afterward. So it wasn't that the challenge was the acting. The challenge was I had to scream all day long. I'll tell you a brief story. This stays with me because it was challenging. I do a lot of accent work, and I used to do more of it at the beginning of my career. Now they generally just want to hire people who are that ethnicity or that sexual orientation or whatever else. I'm a straight male, but I played gay guys. But now they just want gay guys to play gay guys, so fine. But one day I got a call for a looping job, and they said Gary Oldman, very famous actor, has directed a film, and he wants to do the looping. So looping is all the voices that aren't the principals are done by a small group of actors. Extras don't speak, or else they'd have to pay them a lot of money. So we come in and we're a million different people, either matching their voices or in the background improvising. So they said, Gary Oldman, it's a film that takes place in working class Britain, and he wants working class British actors. I said, well, I do that accent, but I'm not a working class British actor. They said, yeah, but we can't get enough of them who are technically adept. We found four guys. They're all working class Brits, right? But they've only done like one or two jobs in front of a microphone, so they don't know what they're doing. So we want you and this gentleman, Randy, to come in and do the job. But Gary can't know that you're not British. I don't want to do it. He's going to be there. Oh, he'll be on the floor with you. He's going to direct the whole session for 8 hours. So for 8 hours, I can't break accent. I can't let him know I'm originally from Canada. Nothing. My dad's from Scotland, and I have relatives in England. I'm familiar with the accents, but they go, no, you can't break character. And I was kind of blackmailed into doing it. I didn't want to do it. So we talked to the four British guys who are nervous. We get there early, and we say, we don't know the soccer teams, and we don't know the local bars. We can do the accents, but you guys have to keep them entertained. You've got to do the interacting. We're going to act shy. But when all the tough stuff comes up, like somebody on camera who's got to be voice matched, we'll do it. Me and Randy will do it. But you've got to talk to him. So he comes in. Oh, guys, how you doing? Oh, nice to meet you. Right, we're really shy. Like it's Gary Oldman. I don't know what to say. So the whole day goes like he's kind of puzzled, but he gets it. But he's sensitive guy. He gets it. These two guys seem shyer. So he's talking to the other guys, and sure enough, it's about the beer and the cider and the footy team, soccer and da. We're going, thank God he gets it not to talk to us. And then the day progresses, and suddenly there's a difficult voice match. They go, Doug, yeah, I'll go. And I go back. What? The shy guy did it. And then Randy gets up and he nails one. He goes. So he starts to talk to us, and we go, "Oh, heads down. So we don't know what to say." And so that's how we had to do the whole day, including at lunch. 8 hours. I could not break accent. I could not for 1 second let Mr. Oldman know that I wasn't from Great Britain and I wasn't working class Brit who was trying his hand at acting, et cetera, et cetera. And I think to this day he doesn't know that he had two ringers on the show. So that was a tough, long day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an incredible. Well, first of all, we're gonna clip this and tag Gary Oldman because he's gonna learn about he's gonna learn about it now.
Stick him over the house. Lay one on me.
Man.
Someday I hope to meet him, and I'll tell him the story if I ever do get to meet him.
Oh man, like that's not only my mind's spinning because like not only is that a challenge to do, but then it's like you have the opportunity to get to hang out with Gary Oldman and converse with him and chat with him, but I gotta play the character, and that's tough.
Yeah, I would have loved it because he's an amazing actor. But no, it didn't really get to interact with him much other than, hello, Mr. Oldman. Yes, sir. I can do that. Yeah, that's about it, right? Yeah.
Oh man. Doug, hey, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you tonight. I know some people do the social media, some people don't do the social media. Is there any social media you want to put out there? Let people follow you, interact with you?
I'm not big on social. My daughter put me on Instagram about a year and a half ago. So now I'm on Instagram with all the kids. I only post there occasionally. I'm not on there a lot. She kind of handles that Instagram account for me. That's about it. I'm on Facebook, but I don't post about work a lot there. So I don't tend to friend fans on Facebook. It's mainly folks that I know in real life or folks that are involved in the animal rescue. A lot of my postings are about animal rescue stuff, either about Kitty Bungalow or supporting other friends as I say, I don't care what you rescue. Uh, my friends rescue all kinds of animals, and I try to offer support in whatever they're doing, whatever charitable stuff they're doing that is helpful. So it's really just Instagram, I guess, that people can find me on and follow me on, and I post there a couple times a week. And
Awesome.
that's
Well,
about it. I'm not promoting myself much anymore because I'm kind of resting on my laurels and just floating through
hey,
the last quarter of my career.
you've
Uh,
earned it, man. You've earned it.
gently.
You've put in the work. You've put in the hours. You've put in the work. You've earned it. I really I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight and talking with us. Everybody was super entertained just listening to you to tell these amazing stories. You are a friend of the show and a friend of mine forever. Anytime you want to come back, tell more stories, promote anything, like I said, do send us the link. I'd love to post the link and
Yeah,
share it out there so people can bid on these incredible items while also raising money for such an incredible charity. Um,
absolutely.
honestly, I can't thank you enough. You are truly an amazing guy. You are this way on camera and just as much off camera. It was a pleasure getting to spend a couple days with you at the two different MGS cons, and hopefully we'll see you at the next one. I'm sure they'll do a three and you'll be there.
I plan to, knock on wood, health holds up and everything else. I will be there. Yeah, absolutely.
Outstanding, outstanding. I will give you the last few seconds here if you would like to say goodbye to the audience, and then we'll toss it to a break.
Uh, who should say goodbye to them? Sean Connery. What the hell? I haven't said Sean yet. I'm sorry he's passed away. I did Sean. I did his voice for Power Rangers. I believe it was I Guy, one of the monsters. Oh, here's a kitty. One of the monsters on Power Rangers. Actually, you will find has a voice that sounds reminiscent of Sean Connery. That was just us goofing around in the studio, and they decided to keep it. So, thank you, everybody, for listening. From all the different people who lodged their homes in my head and in my voice, and thank you for your service, and thank you for listening. And stay healthy. Be good to each other.
Outstanding. This has been the incredible Doug Stone, everybody. Go check out his work. Man, I'm so appreciative. Guys, we'll be back with more show right after this.
Let's see it.